and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with a race at Brands Hatch, just myself and TRL Lightning. This was a practice race for the upcoming FIA Nations race at Brands Hatch. You can see there Lightning was using the Subaru, I was using the Evolution, and we had done a limited amount of practice. I'd done a bit more than Lightning, to be fair. He's come onto this race fairly cold, to be honest. He'd done a little bit of warm-up before this race, about 6 to 10 laps, something like that. I had done probably about 10 laps more, and the night before I'd gone in time trial. Obviously picked the car that I was going to use, the Evolution. I think he's tried it out as well. I'm not sure if he's going to actually use it. It's interesting how close we are on the time trial board, but this race, it was interesting to see how the new tyre model was going to fare for myself, and I want to have a little talk about obviously the new tyre model, my view on it. I'm going to give it a bit of a review. Unfortunately, for the first 10 minutes of this race, it's going to be just replay footage and obviously Chase looking back at myself, because I don't know why I'd somehow changed the recording to 15 minutes rather than 30 minutes when we did this practice. I'm sure there was a reason for me doing that. I think it was something to do with recording a shorter race. I think I was doing the 4-lap races, so I'd obviously set it to record a shorter amount of time. But that led to obviously not recording the start. As you can see, going side by side with Lightning through that final corner, and was really putting Lightning under some pressure on the start of this race. Obviously, he's not fully warmed up, but I definitely think this new tyre model is 100% more suited to myself than the old tyre model. For me, I think there's 50% of it is it's just more suited to my driving style, to how I've played other games in the past. A little bit more simulation. It is definitely got a little bit more simulation feel to it, because you can feel the grip on the front end a lot more now, and I feel I can feel when the rear is slipping so much easier. So I now have the ability to feel where the powers can go on much closer to the limit. I feel like I can drive these cars a lot closer to that limit, especially with it in race settings. In time trial, without tyre wear on and fuel, I can't feel it as much, but as soon as we go into a race setting, I feel a big difference in my force feedback. Everything feels a lot more natural to me. Another 50% of it, I think, is the tyre model suiting the steering wheel I use. I think on the T500 it's changed slightly, the force feedback. I now feel I can judge the corner so much better with my wheel now. Before, it was kind of I don't want to say like a guesswork at where the traction was going to lose, the point of friction, the point of slip on them rear tyres was very random before. Now I feel like I can control that a lot more with this new tyre model. I feel like I can put the tyres, the front tyres, where I want to put them is where they actually go now on the cars. It feels so much better, and I feel also when the tyre wear is kicking in, I also now feel, I've done quite a lot of races on this new tyre model now, at Dragon Trail, at Brands Hatch, obviously at the new track as well, and I'm starting to feel that I can feel when the tyres are going off a lot better now on this new tyre model than on the previous tyre model. I felt like on the previous tyre model it was like grip, 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 gone. It was very much sudden. Now I feel like I can judge where that grip's going, and I can feel at every corner where it's going to be. Because the force feedback on my T500 feels better, possibly, that could be a reason. I mean, I've not changed anything. I'm still using the default, well, I think it's default setting 5 and 5 is what I use on my T500 now, for the two different force feedback settings. Haven't changed anything. You can still see in this race, keeping with TRL Lightning, I do expect him to be a bit faster when it comes to Wednesday, but it's looking very good for myself to be able to be a lot closer to him than I would ever have been in the old tyre model. It seems to be more of a help to me in the Group 3 cars, as in general the Group 3 cars are a little bit looser at the rear, and that's where I was struggling beforehand. I felt like I couldn't quite get to grips with the way the cars handled as much on the Group 3 cars as, say, on a Settle Course and Project Cars. On them games, I was a lot more competitive than on GT Sport, but now with this new tyre model, it really does suit me a lot more, and I feel a lot more in control of the car. If you have a little look at how I'm hitting the apexes, it's so much more consistent than I ever used to be. I'm skimming the apexes pretty much perfectly, look at that through there, right to the apex, and just avoiding the curb, to lose the rear end, pretty much perfect. And I feel like I can attack these corners with a lot more confidence than I ever used to be able to. So I have to give credit to Polyphony for what they did with this tyre model change. I feel it's been a good change. Some people are saying that the cars feel less grip. I really don't feel that. For me, I feel like there might be a little bit, you can't carry the speed that you used to be able to carry through the corners. That I feel is where, and probably on exits when you're coming out of corners, is where you're losing some of the lap time. But for me, I feel it's a more manageable feeling through the corners. I feel like where you want to put the car is where the car goes now. It doesn't understeer so much on entry. Whereas if you were carrying, say, 2-3 miles per hour too much in the past on the old model, it would just understeer so much. But now I feel like you can judge that speed that you can carry into the corner a lot easier and a lot more effectively. You can still see in this race pushing Lightning and really got great pace so far in this race. I thoroughly enjoyed it. At this point, I wasn't expecting this, to be brutally honest. Even though Lightning's probably not at the practice, before this was my first actual proper race test on the new Tyre model that I'd done in the Group 3 cars, especially at this track. Obviously I'd driven the new track, but with the Ford it doesn't really feel anything like the Evolution. So this was my first race test for this FIA Nations and also Lightning. So although I'd been in the lobby about 10 minutes before Lightning, maybe about 15 minutes, something like that, maybe 20, I really don't know. So I've done a good at least 10 laps more than him, but then we both did at least, I think it was about 10 laps in qualifying. He got a faster time in the qualifying session. I think it was a few tenths faster than myself, which again I was quite surprised that I got that close. And I've been on practicing more since this one now. I'm not going to tell the pace that I've got now because obviously it's a competition for the FIA Nations, and I don't want to be giving away too much, and that's why I don't mind uploading this, because I've increased my pace now. My pace is a lot, I'd say a fair bit faster than what I showed in this race. So it'd be interesting to see how close I'm going to be. I don't expect to obviously be winning the races, because there's other people I've already seen that are doing very well on this new model. But one thing I've noticed as well at Dragon Trail as well with the SLS, the GR4 SLS, the tyre wear, I'm able to keep the tyres in so much better condition. Really showed it in a race with Jomas and Oscaro Sky Piltman. I think that might be half of the reason. Some of the reason is the cars obviously are being a bit friendlier on tyres compared to other cars, but I'm noticing that I've got more feel for grip when it's getting close to the limit of what the tyres will give, and that's really helping me out on this now with this new tyre model. If you let me know what you think. I've heard a lot of contradicting. I'd say about 50 to 60% of players are saying that they feel it's better for them on a control pad. Some are still saying it feels worse, but I think the ones that are saying it feels worse, I think just need to get used to this more. It's more simulation. It 100% feels better for me. I can feel the suspension a little bit more now through the new tyre model, and that is probably helping my overall speed. Obviously it's going to be interesting to see how much faster Lightning gets once he's more up to speed, once he's had more practice and he's got fully up to it, because we've seen the time that he did in the Megane in the Group 4 race that was on the Daily Race B, pretty much 4 tenths faster than anyone else. But the one thing about the Megane for me is the tyre model seems to have affected the Megane the least, in my opinion, because it's got so much grip, that Megane. The new tyre model is pretty much not really doing anything to that car. I think the majority of the speed that car's lost at Suzuka is through the 2% weight increase. I don't think it's massively through the tyre model change. I think the Group 3 cars have been affected more by the tyre model changes. You can see they're lining it very close to pushing it too far on that exit, and this has given me a run up to see if I can make a move, but didn't. I thought there's no point here risking it. This is looking like a good race so far between myself and him. I didn't want to ruin it by ramming into him and taking him out. I know it's only a practice race, but I like to race practice races like it was a real FIA race. So I make decisions. You want to practice decisions that you would make in a real race. You don't want to just throw one up the inside and ruin the practice session. This so far is going pretty well for both of us. We're both getting good knowledge of the new tyre model in terms of its wear. Obviously Lightning's in the Subaru there. I'm not too sure he's going to choose that for the actual race now. Did seem like the Subaru had a little bit more tyre wear than the Evo when we compared after. I'm not going to show these pictures of the tyre wear differences, because obviously I don't think Lightning will want to show everyone details like this, because it's a competition at the end of the day. We're racing to try and win these competitions, so everyone's going to see that when I upload the obviously you're going to see my tyre wear anyway, because I'm going to show gameplay footage from about lap 8 onwards. I can show gameplay footage when I could record the last 15 minutes obviously, so you're going to see my tyre wear, but I don't want to show other people's, because that's up to them. If I think it's only fair to keep stuff private when it comes to these competitions for the FIA. You know, these are big competitions now. There's quite a lot at stake for these. You know, going through to live finals, and there's probably going to be prizes involved. So it's just going to be so interesting to see how it plays out when it comes to Wednesday. I did think these FIA, I don't know why, but I thought these FIA Nations races were last night. I was getting prepared for them and looked at the date, and it was Wednesday, and I was like, oh god, I've now got to. I just got totally mistracked by the dates. I was going to upload this after the FIA Nations, but I thought, why not do it now? Talk about the new time model, and also try and give some input on you know, to show you how I drove this race. Obviously, we're going to show more of that when we get through to the gameplay. Mainly, I was just revving the car 3/4, not using any of the other mixtures, just using one mixture. Seemed to be a nice way to run this Evo. I really do like this Evo. I've never really driven it before. I've always known it's been a good car at this track. I remember quite a lot of drivers using it and being really fast, and there's a reason for that. It's a really nice car at this track. It's probably equal to the Porsche 911. I think for overall pace, the Renault is going to be the fastest, but that Renault is going to be really interesting to see how it behaves on its tyres now. As you can see, coming to the end of lap 8, tyres are quite worn, but I feel like I can cope with it now a lot more than you used to be able to on the old time model. You can see the lap time is fairly consistent, and at this stage now I actually feel that Lightning was struggling a little bit more with his tyres. This is where the car was starting to kick in a bit in terms of my car was probably a better for the last, I'd say from lap 7, 8, 9, my car was 100% a faster car than Lightning's, because Subaru was killing the tyres a lot more, especially the front left I think it was probably killing that tyre a lot more than my car. So I think that's where he was losing a bit of speed at this point, because I was starting to gain and kind of getting held up in a way, because I felt like the Evo had a bit more speed to give. So I'm just short shifting behind them and just saving some fuel really now. And if I get an overtaking opportunity, I'd go for it obviously, but it's got to be a clear cut overtake. You can't. Brands Hatch is such a hard track, because when you've got someone like Tyre Lightning in front of you, he's not going to be braking 20 yards short of where you should be. He's going to be braking pretty much where you should be. So the chances of getting past him are not going to be easy. As you can see, again, pushing reasonably hard then. Again, I'm hooking these corners up really well. I'm hitting that right front tyre so much better to where I want it, and I feel really smooth. I feel like my driving's so much smoother now on this new time model. As you can see, going through to fuel mixture 2, I think that's about one of the only times I did it was on the in-lap, because I could see that I might as well do it now. I'm not going to be able to get past them going into the pit, so save a bit of fuel wherever I can. And it was really interesting to see what the fuel, I expected when I went in the pits at Lightning I'd save more fuel than me, because obviously I didn't know what his pace was going to be like on the new time model. He obviously hasn't practiced, but it was interesting that I was 1% better on the fuel than he was when we went in the pits. Now I fully expect, obviously when we come through to Wednesday, Lightning's going to be faster than this. He's going to be a lot more up to speed. He's going to have had more practice. He doesn't get the time to practice like a lot of us do. I mean, I don't get the most time to practice, but I think he gets very limited practice, because I think it's quite amazing how fast he is for the limited amount of practice Lightning actually does. I don't think people realise that Lightning jumps on pretty much some of these FIA races in the past. He's jumped on 20 minutes before and done a little bit of practice in time trial and gone on to win these races. It is absolutely amazing how he does it, and I know I couldn't do that. I need a bit of practice to warm up. I mean, I can tell now from watching this to my latest practice races the difference in my pace. I've definitely upped my speed by a fair bit since doing this race, so it's interesting seeing them. It's really interesting that my overall pace on the new tyre model for the 18 laps isn't that much difference to my overall pace on the old tyre model. It's just a little bit off. Obviously different cars, but I feel like the new tyre model is more consistent for me, and that's probably where it's paying off. I'm able to keep the car where I want it and drive it a lot better. I really am impressed by what they've done with this new tyre model. Some people, obviously, I heard some people saying about it being very much like a Assetto Corsa. I don't agree with that. It does not feel like a Assetto Corsa really. I think it's got more of a simulation feel than it did have before, but to say Assetto Corsa for me is a benchmark. It beats iRacing, it beats Project Cars 2. iRacing is probably the second best in terms of how it feels for me, but also one of the other games that I really like is R Factor 2, but I just never play it, even though it feels like one of the best games for physics, but I just never get around to playing that game, even though I've got it and I do like it. But I think Assetto Corsa is the one that really feels like they nailed it in terms of the way the car feels with the Tyre model, and I think Gran Turismo have took a big step forward in that with this new Tyre model. It feels a lot more like it should do, you know, through the corners in terms of the grip loss. There was, I remember, I think reading the patch notes, there's something now with the tyre heat. I feel like I can judge that a little bit. You can feel it a little bit more. If you drive them too aggressive, I think if you drive these cars too aggressive now, in terms of the way you're throwing it in the corners, they build up heat and take a lot of tyre wear out of them, especially with the tyre wear on like times 6 or 7 or whatever it is for these races, 9, I'm not too sure what it is. I think it's, if you drive too aggressively, you will take tyre wear out of the a lot more than if you just keep it smooth. And it seems to be suiting my style of driving 100%, this new Tyre model. As I have done a few races now at Dragon Trail, also and set up a lobby yesterday, I think it was. Had one race, did another race with Oscar's Sky Piltman, who obviously in the Lexus is a very good car at that track. 100% a better car than the Mercedes. However, the Mercedes, I think, again is good on the tyres now with this new tyre model. Obviously it was always a fairly nice car in terms of its stability, and I think the new tyre model is just helping that. And also now I can feel the grip a lot better with that car, considering that track was pretty much my most hated track on this game. The progress that I've made with that track is very, very good. It's really good to see. I'm currently the fastest Mercedes. I was the fastest Mercedes Group 4 car on the time trial leaderboard. Obviously some of the people who had done it on the old time model still beat them, but whether that's still like that, I don't know. I haven't really done too much on that time trial. I feel like there's another 3-4 attempts I can take out of that, but not too worried about that. Just more worried about keeping, obviously, the race pace consistent. As you can see, I've dropped back a bit from, like you would have saw before while I was talking. He actually he kind of disconnected for a very short amount of time, and ended up going off into the sand. And when it happened, I backed off. I didn't know where he was going to reappear because his car like lagged in front of me and then reappeared further up. So that's why I lost about 4 to 5 tenths in it and lost the slipstream. And this is what was interesting, because now I've lost the slipstream, I did think to myself, is this going to be the point in this race where I fall back from Lightning? However, you can see on the Delta it's staying around 1 second, just over 1 second. So it was going to be interesting to see if I could get back in that slipstream, especially when the tyres wore back off. And if I could start pushing. Yeah, we've both had now 12 laps this race, so we're getting more up to speed, we're getting more used to the tyre model, and it was really a case of just being, you know, keeping it smooth. You can see a 23.8. At the time I was happy with that lap, but now since obviously practicing, I know I can beat that lap in the race situation, as long as I hook it all up. Turn 2 is one corner where I feel the new tyre model really helped me out, because you get this feeling of it driving so much smoother through the corners now when you're off throttle, and that's where I think a lot of it's happening with me, because I'm a driver who likes to lift off and let the car just, you know, coast a little bit before getting back on the power, and it really does seem to suit my driving style with the way they've changed obviously the tyre model. I think also they might have made a change to the way the differential is behaving. It could be that. I don't think they've changed anything with the default setups. I think they've actually changed something with the way the differentials are behaving on the cars in terms of lifting off the throttle. That could be something that they've changed, because it definitely seems to be helping myself out a bit. But you can see I've actually got back into that slipstream now. I think Lightning made a little error which gave me the chance to pick it back up, and now I can carry on pushing and see if I can get really close to him again. And obviously when the tyres start to fade again, hopefully I can see if I can make a move on him somewhere and really push to try and get a win in this practice. I know it's only a practice race, but I can tell you now at this point I was really sweating, because this was probably one of the best races I've had on the game in a long time. We're both really driving reasonably well. Obviously Lightning will be faster when it comes to Wednesday. I've said it a few times. Obviously I want to make that point clear, because I don't expect, I mean, if I can finish within 5, I think the chances of now though is I feel like I can finish within 5 to 10 seconds of Lightning, maybe closer to the 5 seconds, whereas before it was over 10 seconds. I definitely think I've made a massive improvement in terms of getting closer to the top front speed on certain tracks. It's not going to be every track. There's tracks like the new track I haven't really driven that much, so I can't really judge that one, but I think it's going to be very much track dependent, because this track was one of the tracks where I was really good on project cars, and I was also really good on these tracks. This track and Laguna Seca was a very strong track for me on the original project cars, because you have to lift off the throttle and carry speed through corners, and that's why I'm saying about the differential feels a little bit different, because it seems to have helped me. Obviously the new tyre model has been a big part of that also. You can see putting Lightning under a lot of pressure now, and starting to get the real feel for these tyres. I feel like I can just keep and maintain a speed with this new tyre model. It doesn't feel like there's a massive drop off. It feels like, obviously you feel the tyre wear, but I feel like I can feel the grip loss through my steering wheel so much better now. And again, just look how I hooked that corner up pretty much perfect and pushing right to the edge of the track. Everything feels controlled though. It doesn't feel like I'm overdriving the car, which is one thing I think you need to be cautious of with this new tyre model, is overdriving the car. I think once you start spinning the tyres and the car's kicking out in the rear, as they mentioned in the patch notes about the tyres building the heat cycle in the tyres, it's something to do with heat. I think if you do start spinning them up, they start overheating, and if you do start putting pressure on the tyres by leaning on them too much, they build up that heat and they start wearing a lot quicker. So this could be where some of the tyre wear is happening more so than obviously the old model, and obviously depending on cars as well. I think the different cars that we're driving, it's interesting. It's going to be really interesting to start this FIA season to see what cars have been affected more by the tyre model change and what cars haven't been affected. The overall speed of the SLS is still not great for the Group 4 cars. It's still heavy, but the tyre model seems to be more beneficial to it in terms of preserving its tyres than the older tyre model is, especially when you're comparing it to other cars. I think still, looking at the practice races I've had so far at Dragon Trail, the Renault Megane, the trophy is still dominant at that track. Also the Hyundai looks very good at that track, really fast, and I'm expecting the Porsche Cayman to be good there, and obviously a few other cars. We all know that the Toyota 86 will probably be okay there. There's quite a few cars that are going to be fast. The Citroen also still going to be a fast car there. Obviously that's had a little bit of a nerf, so that will be slightly slower, but not massive amounts, just a very small amount slower. You can see now in this race, you can see we're in the last 3 laps now of this race, and you see I go to make a move on the inside there. I got a really good run up from turn 1, but again decided to back out of it because for myself to brake later than what I did and hold a tight line on that inside would have been very hard, so I didn't want to end up ruining both our races. As I run a little bit wide there, that would have probably picked up a penalty on the way they've done the new penalty system, but I've got used to that new penalty system. I've done a fair bit of running in the time trial session to try and get used to it. There is a way that you can still run a little bit wide there. It's about how early you go wide on that corner. You've got to make sure you're quite early on the apex, and then run. If you're going to run wide, it's got to be fairly, a fair bit past where you used to be able to. You can't just run out wide like you used to be able to. You will pick up a penalty. Also, the other corner that's been affected with the new track limits for this track, which you need to bear in mind, is this corner now. You see how you can go over it like that pretty much. I think that would have been very close to how much you'd get away with, but if you go over like you used to be able to, like all 4 wheels over the white line, you're going to probably pick up a penalty. So you need to be careful of that also with the when it comes to the FIA race. I wish, this is one little niggle I've got with the way they're doing this, because them settings that are in the FIA cannot be replicated in an open lobby session or a private lobby session. You can see again getting very close to Lightning, having a little look to see if I can make a move. Yeah, these settings cannot be replicated, so how we're supposed to make a practice session with the exact same settings, it's impossible. And I wish they would give us the exact, even if they give us a special setting on the private lobbies called FIA, we clicked on that and it loads up the settings that they use with the track limits that they use, and we can run these practice lobbies with their settings, because you can't, the way it is now, you can't really practice these races fully. So I'm trying to do 50% 50% in open lobbies practicing racing and fit with the tyre wear, 50% actually in the time trial without the tyre wear, because you really want to get used to the new track limits for these tracks. The advantages at Dragon Trail, the track limits have really helped that track out. You now can't bounce over that curb like I said that they should do in one of my other videos. They've actually done pretty much exactly what I said. You now can't attack them curbs like you used to be able to. You've got to drive it to the track limits, and it's massively improved the track. It feels a lot easier, a lot more flowing now, less risky, and it just feels more fun to drive. So I actually don't mind that track as much as I used to. It's still not my favourite track, but it feels like I can actually keep some sort of consistency now, as we can see. Really trying to put some pressure on Lightning. This last few laps I've been trying to really get as close as I can. You see, coming up to the final lap now, I've got okay fuel, 1.2 on my fuel, so I know I can drive fairly aggressive on this final lap. So decide now, his car is clearly struggling with tyre wear. I had to lift off slightly there on the apex because He obviously wanted to keep his line nice and tight on that corner, and that stopped me being able to make a move into this corner. So just tried to stay behind him through here and see if I could get a really nice exit from this corner, because going into this next left hand corner is the opportunity to make an overtake. He runs a little bit wide, I keep it really nicely there on the track, just pretty much running that corner perfectly. Just go down the inside. I've got my front end side by side. Now this is really difficult now because I can't run the full width of the track, and he's able to get the power a little bit earlier, and then that gives him the run out of the corner. But now I'm extremely close to the rear of his car, picking up that slipstream. I'm going to have to go to the left. He's gone defensive down that right hand side, so pick up that slipstream, go down the left hand side and just try and brake a little bit earlier, and then just cut back on the inside now and carry more speed on the inside. Back end goes a little bit loose, managed to hold that and have to tuck back in behind TRL Lightning. So close. I was really trying to put pressure on him here now. This was really sweaty now, I must admit. Really clammy hands, really getting intense. Even though it's a practice race, you still want to win these races. And I wanted to, this for me has been my best performance on GT Sport. I feel I've never really been able to push Lightning anything like this before. I think once before at Suzuka, but that wasn't really the same. Now you can see, again, I was going to go around the outside then, but held his line perfectly in the middle of the track, nothing I could do. And just picking up the slipstream now all the way to the finishing line, and we finish under a 10th behind. That was an insane race and a really good fun battle. And you can see, even with the battling at the end, 25.46, and that is only, I think, 4 or 5 seconds off my pace on the old Tyre model. And I feel like now I know I can go faster than what I did in that race, so it's going to be really interesting to see how close I can get to the old overall race pace, because although the Tyre model has 100% slowed the cars down on that ultimate hot lap, I feel the consistency is easier to judge. It's easier to feel tyre wear. It's easier just to keep the car where you want it to go. So I'm really looking forward to this next upcoming season. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. I thoroughly enjoyed that race. It was really entertaining to be able to push Lightning like that. I understand he's not practiced as much as he would have liked for that, and I'm sure he'll come back a lot stronger on Wednesday. And it'll be interesting to see with my improved pace how it's going to compare to his improved pace. I expect him to be probably about 5 seconds quicker, to be brutally honest, when it comes to it. At least 5 seconds quicker, maybe more. Who knows? It's going to be really interesting to see everyone's pace. I think there's going to be some people that are struggling more than other people on this new Tyre model. It will 100% affect certain people more than others, because there is a different feel to the handling. There's a different way that the driving affects the car and stuff. So it's going to be a great race. I'm going to probably upload a practice race from the Dragon Trail race also before Wednesday to help anyone out if they want to see the way I'm driving that. Pick up any tips from the racing lines I'm now taking with the new track limits, etc. So make sure you check that one out. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and also make sure you hit that notification button so you don't miss any future videos, and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Thanks again for watching, everyone.